Okay. Esti gets a commendation for making her time. So I think the topic of innovating inside a big defense company really brings me back to a joke I heard a few days ago. We talk about R&D, right, research and development, but actually when you're a startup, a lot of the R&D you're doing is actually T&E, trial and error. You're just building things fast and you're trying what works, and you're not afraid to take chances and try new technologies. And I wonder, and that's maybe a question for all of us to consider, what happens to that element when you bring a small innovative startup into a big 500-pound gorilla, as it were? What happens to that element of innovation, that ability to break things, to try stuff that doesn't necessarily work? And I think that's an important thing we'd like to also go back to in our panel. Now I'd like to introduce our third speaker for this session, after which we'll have the panel discussion. I'm very excited to have with us today one of the most distinguished analysts with Gartner Research. Mr. Lawrence Pingree is a research director with Gartner. He's been an active member of the information security industry for more than 17 years, and he is currently the research director. He serves as an advisor to financial institutions, corporates, and government entities on a variety of security technologies. Lawrence specializes in advanced threats and threat intelligence, but he also covers a variety of other topics. And today, we're going to hear from Lawrence, I think, a very interesting perspective about the future of security technologies and a very, very important element that's going to change probably any new security product that's going to be out in the market in the next 5 years. And that is intelligence, awareness, and adaptive security products. So please help me welcome to the stage Mr. Lawrence Pingree. Thank you. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen, and thank you all for having me today. So I wanted to start with a little bit of a joke. So in the teaching industry, they say that when you can't do a job, you teach. Well, when you're a security engineer and you can't do the security engineering job, you become a security researcher. So what I'm going to talk today about is what Gartner calls intelligence, awareness, and adaptive security. The future of information security is intelligence, aware, and adaptive. Just like if you look at the upper image on this screen, you have a picture of the world, but it has absolutely nothing on it. What we need to do is we need to enrich that information onto that image. If you see below on the lower right, you have a tremendous amount of intelligence that's been integrated onto that map. That's exactly what we're missing in the information security realm. We lack a tremendous amount of intelligence about the bad actor, and we need to bring that intelligence into the security controls environment. So we'll start off with the first key issue, which is why is the network security market evolving towards intelligence awareness? We'll follow that up by what is the intelligence awareness concept and how is it important to us? And then what are the effects of those concepts on the security market? What buyers are faced with today is security technology that is completely disconnected and isolated from one another. So for example, a firewall does not communicate any information or relatively limited information to the endpoint. The endpoint doesn't say anything about what threats or activities the user is performing to the firewall. And that same story exists across every security technology. We don't tell a lot about what is happening behaviorally on our endpoints. We don't inform the application layer. When you log on to a sensitive application, that application doesn't know that you just span a bunch of attacks across your network. Nobody is communicating that intelligence that we need to make important decisions. Humans and business processes are, frankly, just really too slow to respond to advanced threats. And earlier, Mr. England said that he believed that the network and elements need to become more adaptive and orchestrated. I firmly believe that. the future scenario for security is one where all of the different products communicate threat intelligence and other intelligence elements to collectively orchestrate responses. This means that when an AV detection occurs, it informs your firewall. Your firewall can then adapt its policies and reduce privileges to sensitive systems. Attackers are continuously looking for ways to evade our security technologies. Many of them operate at different layers of the TCP/IP stack or in the application layer. Some of them are performing overlap packets and all of these other advanced techniques. But what their main goal is to try to trip up the technology. Right? When there's a decode occurring on a network, they're trying to make certain that the decoder doesn't work. Or if in the case of a malware, what they're trying to disrupt is our antivirus detection. Well, a lot of this is because it's suspect activity, but it should be blocked, right? So protection strategies must shift, and they are beginning to shift from a trusted versus untrusted environment towards more adaptive, analytics-enriched, and gradient behavioral modeling, where the response mechanisms, such as whether a user has privilege, should be gradiently decided. So for example, if someone plugs into the network and they start to scan the environment, that's a suspect activity. They should be deprivileged from sensitive systems or quarantined. Much of the inside of the network is wide open. The biggest problem with advanced persistent threats are once my malware is on your system, I grab your credential, I have free access to the inside of the network. So in the case of a firewall technology, let's say a perimeter firewall detects that there's command and control from a malware that's installed on an endpoint. That perimeter firewall doesn't tell my data center firewall, hey, this guy just did something bad and we should block him. Right? But they should. Those adaptations should be built into our products. And we should no longer, as technology companies, try to capitalize just on the intellectual property of threat intelligence. Once we understand that something is threatening, we need to communicate that behavior extremely rapidly. Okay? It needs to be communicated across our environment to all of the different security controls that we've deployed. That way, all of them can act in unison on that information. The threat complexity is even increasing as we adopt cloud and we adopt SaaS offerings and other technologies like SDN. And that intelligence awareness is going to be critical for us to be able to continually adapt our security in that changing environment. And I apologize for going a little fast through the slides, but we only have 10 minutes. So once detected irregular behavior, you should be doing investigation and communicate adaptations to security controls across the environment in a rapid fashion. So for example, like I said earlier, if you detect something, you should inform other elements. You should then maybe do a mitigation and maybe deprivilege a user in the environment. These things currently are manual processes. And most organizations are weak because it takes literally weeks to months to respond to something that we detect in our environment. So what is intelligence awareness and why is it important? We've kind of covered some of this, but at a very simple level, for instance, a police officer, when they broadcast somebody's details, well, they're driving a Buick or a blue car and they're acting suspicious, that's intelligence. We don't communicate that intelligence to those other security technologies, so therefore they sit there dumb and go, let's let them through. Right? So that's what's really important. That's what intelligence is. Now, there are forms of communicating intelligence based on standards like STIX and TAXII from MITRE, which allow us to create machine-readable threat intelligence that can communicate laterally to other security technologies. Currently, Gartner is pushing the tech community towards those standards so that we can incorporate intelligence sharing and orchestrated response capabilities across the landscape. Now, intelligence awareness can also incorporate context. And intelligence is the transport of that machine-readable threat intelligence to another security control. It is used as context in decision-making. So, for example, on many of the websites and some of the more advanced fraud systems, there are contextual awareness attributes such as who are they, where are they coming from, what is the browser fingerprint, and then there's another added threat intelligence that is, did that person perform a bad act prior to now connecting to my system? Okay, so that's used as context in the decision-making process and can help thwart and create adaptive security. So intelligence awareness is not just about the awareness that we have in a global sense. For the majority of our security products, like antivirus and others, we share a tremendous amount of information about the outside attacker onto our systems at the perimeter, or we bring intelligence down to those at the endpoints, but it's from a global anonymized pool of data. What we believe is the future is that there will be systems that are installed on-premise that will specifically share non-anonymous data. And there are right now customers enabling sharing mechanisms to share within specific verticals. And we believe that that internal sharing will give rise to the shared orchestrated response that we see in the future. We call this intelligence-aware security controls, IASC for short. And that integrates the context awareness research that Gartner has, the security intelligence research, which is all about intelligent response, and the use of machine-readable threat intelligence to create the real-time shared response infrastructure or orchestrated infrastructure of the future. I want to thank you very much for this time to present, and shalom.
Toda, Lawrence. Thank you.